North Texas-based Daystar television network has died. The network shared on social media that Joni Lamb passed away this morning.
Doug Weiss, once a familiar face on Daystar alongside his late wife, Joni Lamb, has all but vanished from public view since her passing. What happened to the psychologist and media personality who was so prominent just months ago? His disappearance is puzzling, especially given his long-standing career and recent visibility on television. But the story behind Doug's retreat is far more complex than a simple farewell. From family rifts and leadership battles to controversial accusations circulating online, the reasons he stepped out of the spotlight raise tough questions about loyalty, grief, and power. Doug Weiss's sudden absence. Doug Weiss, who for several years was a prominent face on Daystar alongside his wife, Joni Lamb, has disappeared from the public eye since her memorial. His name, once frequently seen and heard on the network's flagship show, Ministry Now, has effectively vanished from all Daystar programming. This absence struck many viewers and commentators as sudden and unusual, especially given his visible role leading up to Joni's death. In fact, he has not appeared in a single live broadcast or new recorded segment since the pre-recorded tribute he gave at her May 18th memorial service. This silence has generated plenty of speculation online, with various chatter channels and commentators wondering what the network plans to do with him, or if he will return to television at all. Even before Joni passed away, some noted Doug's increasingly infrequent appearances, but after the memorial, it became clear he was no longer part of Daystar's on-air lineup. The void left by his disappearance is particularly notable because he was arguably the second most visible personality on the network, aside from the Lamb family members. Despite Doug's public absence, there has been no official explanation from Daystar about why he has not returned to the screen. His silence contrasts sharply with the network's usual openness in promoting key figures and programming. This lack of communication has only fueled curiosity and fueled rumors that range from personal struggles to internal power shifts. However, no concrete answers have emerged, leaving fans and critics alike guessing. Interestingly, Doug's professional life outside Daystar tells a different story. His counseling practice in Colorado Springs, Heart to Heart, continues normal operations, with regular business hours reported as recently as June 2026. His Psychology Today profile and LinkedIn activity show no indication that he has stopped working as a psychologist or retired. Instead, he remains active in his field, sharing content about therapy and mental health topics, although he avoids referencing his Daystar involvement or the recent grief. This stark contrast between his business continuity and complete withdrawal from the Daystar stage has sparked questions about his future with the network. Is this disappearance a voluntary retreat into private life, or is it the result of decisions made behind closed doors? There are solid reports of leadership changes and tensions within Daystar that might leave someone like Doug without a formal role to return to. At the same time, the controversy surrounding his personal life has made his presence potentially risky for the network's image. Equally puzzling is that he has made no appearances on other mainstream media outlets since the memorial, despite having a history of appearing on shows like Oprah and Dr. Phil long before his Daystar days. Though he still has his show, Healing Time, no new episodes or notable public engagements have emerged in recent months. This near-total media silence deepens the mystery around where Doug has gone and why he chose not to maintain a public persona in the wake of Joni's death. The full answer requires a look back at who Doug is and how he came to be so involved with Daystar in the first place. Doug Weiss's background and Daystar role. Before Doug Weiss was known as Joni Lamb's husband or as a Daystar co-host, he had already built a substantial career as a psychologist over 3 decades. Operating out of Colorado Springs with his Heart to Heart Counseling Center, he specialized in issues like intimate addiction and what he termed intimacy anorexia, which describes emotional withholding in marriages. His work was well respected enough to land him spots on major television programs such as Oprah, Dr. Phil, Good Morning America, and Fox News, long before he entered the Daystar spotlight. During his career, Doug authored around 40 books focused on therapy, marriage, and recovery topics. He was far from a newcomer or a last-minute addition to Daystar. He had an established professional reputation and a following independent of religious broadcasting. This background gave him credibility and experience when he came onto the scene as Joni Lamb's partner and later co-host on Ministry Now. Doug's involvement with Daystar began in earnest after Marcus Lamb, the network's co-founder and Joni's husband, passed away in November 2021.
Just 4.5 years ago, after losing my dad, and it's honestly unimaginable to think that now I'm standing here again, this time after losing my mom.
Joni suddenly found herself leading the network alone, navigating grief and a demanding role that had defined much of her public life. It was during this period that Doug and Joni grew close, their relationship transitioning from friendship to romance, culminating in their marriage in June 2023. That marriage, however, attracted significant attention and controversy, mainly because Doug had recently divorced his previous wife, Lisa, and the timeline between his divorce and new relationship appeared very tight to critics. The Christian community, known for its scrutiny and high expectations regarding marriage, reacted with skepticism and sometimes harsh judgment. The public conversation never fully addressed these concerns on air. Instead, Daystar's platform moved forward as if unbothered. Soon after marrying Joni, Doug became a regular co-host on Ministry Now, sharing the screen daily with his wife and becoming the network's second most visible non-family personality. His role gave him a new kind of influence within Daystar, merging his therapeutic background with religious broadcasting. For close to 2 years, he helped shape the network's message and content, building a new chapter for himself in media ministry. The health struggles plaguing Joni Lamb and the immense impact of her subsequent death fundamentally altered not just their personal lives, but the entire Daystar organization. Joni Lamb's health decline and death. Joni Lamb's health had been a source of quiet concern for some time before her death, though the details were kept closely guarded by those around her. Watchdog groups and investigative reporters noted patterns that pointed to serious medical treatments, such as private jet trips to San Diego in late 2025, widely speculated to be for specialized care. Rumors circulated online about the nature of her illness, with many reports later suggesting bone cancer, though Daystar never officially confirmed the diagnosis. Doug Weiss publicly revealed some of these struggles during a Ministry Now broadcast on April 6, 2026. On that day, he told viewers that Joni was dealing with 2 hairline fractures in her spine and asked for prayers. This statement marked his last confirmed live appearance with the network. The acknowledgement of such severe health issues raised questions about her ability to continue leading the network and foreshadowed difficult times ahead. Joni died on May 7, 2026, at the age of 65. Daystar's official statement noted that she had been quietly battling serious health problems, with the back injury exacerbating her condition. The network also informed the public that a leadership team had been established beforehand to ensure Daystar's continuity after Joni's passing. This detail was a hint toward a planned succession, but few names or specifics were shared publicly. Her memorial, held at Gateway Church in Southlake, Texas, on May 18th, was notable not just for its size, but for the high-profile guest list, which included political figures, prominent pastors, and family members. The event spotlighted the network's influence and the complicated dynamics within the Lamb family. Notably, her son Jonathan Lamb, who had been removed from Daystar leadership amid serious allegations, was absent from on-stage involvement and was reportedly kept away from the cameras and main family events. Doug Weiss did not speak live at the memorial. Instead, he recorded a video message in advance, explaining that his emotions would likely overwhelm him if he appeared live. In the message, he reflected on their courtship and marriage, touching on the deep personal loss he was experiencing. This video remains his last public appearance connected to Daystar. Joni's death created a seismic shift for the network and those close to her. It ushered in a period of uncertainty about the future direction of Daystar, the fate of her family's roles, and especially Doug Weiss's place in it all. The combination of grief, internal conflict, and leadership gaps contributed to the dramatic transformation behind the scenes that continues to unfold. The complex personal and professional threads weaving through Doug Weiss's sudden absence find their roots in the tightly intertwined relationships and challenges surrounding Daystar's leadership and legacy. family tensions, and controversies. The atmosphere surrounding Daystar has long been complicated by deep family tensions, and these issues only intensified as Doug Weiss entered the picture. Central to this unrest is Jonathan Lamb, Joni's son, whose estrangement from the network's leadership added layers of public drama. In 2024, Jonathan was removed from a Daystar leadership role following serious allegations he and his wife raised about abuse within the family. Allegations that both Joni and the network strongly denied. This rift fractured family relations and set a tone of mistrust that lingered through the years that followed. Jonathan's absence from key moments underscored the ongoing divide. At Joni's memorial, despite being a son, he was not given a speaking role, a decision that sparked speculation and disappointment among observers. Reports indicated Jonathan and his wife attended but were largely kept off camera and physically distanced from the rest of the family. In contrast, Joni's daughters, Rachel Lamb Brown and Rebecca Lamb Weiss, spoke publicly at the service, highlighting who remains favored in Daystar's public narrative. Doug Weiss's marriage into this fractured family did little to ease the situation. Critics and insiders alike saw his arrival as complicating existing conflicts rather than healing them. Given the previous allegations and overall family discord, Doug's presence at the network was a lightning rod for controversy. Some believed he inadvertently deepened the divide, especially since his relationship with Joni overlapped with the family's most sensitive moments and disputes. Beyond the family drama, social media and watchdog groups kept the controversies alive, resurfacing old grievances and scrutinizing Doug's rapid transition from divorce to remarriage. The whispers about the timing of his previous divorce and how soon he married Joni persisted in online communities, feeding an atmosphere of suspicion. These discussions complicated how the public perceived Doug, making it harder for Daystar to present a unified front. Doug's silence on these issues did not quell the storm. His limited public statements, confined mostly to controlled appearances, and that pre-recorded memorial video left many questions unanswered. The perception that he was being sidelined grew as he ceased regular television appearances, contrasting with the family members who maintained visible roles. This quiet withdrawal hinted at deeper divisions within both the family and the network's leadership. The challenges created by the Lamb family's internal disputes extend beyond personal relationships. They shape Daystar's operational and public strategies. Navigating these divisions involves balancing loyalty to family members while managing donor and viewer expectations, a difficult line to walk when controversies linger in public view. The network's handling of the situation affects credibility and trust, critical commodities in religious broadcasting. Though Doug came in as a high-profile outsider married to the network's matriarch, these family tensions meant his acceptance was never assured. His role placed him at the center of a maelstrom of unresolved grievances, legacy concerns, and power dynamics that are far from settled. The ongoing Jonathan Lamb conflict and Doug's own complicated history within the family story have left lasting scars on Daystar's inner workings. The evolving leadership dynamic within Daystar reveals much about Doug Weiss's fading influence and the network's efforts to stabilize after Joni Lamb's passing. Leadership shifts at Daystar. Following Joni Lamb's death, Daystar's leadership moved toward consolidation around a small group of longtime insiders, rather than selecting a clear successor to fill her role. According to investigative reports and board meeting details, a team formed quickly after her passing, including trusted figures such as attorney Tom Callender, senior vice president Steve Wilhite, chief financial officer Arnold Torres, executive Darius Johnston, and notably, Joni's daughter, Rachel Lamb Brown.
Her name is Rachel Lamb Brown. She's the eldest daughter of Marcus and Joni Lamb. She's the director of communications at Daystar Television Network.
This group has been described as holding the real operational power within the network. This shift away from a singular leadership figure toward a committee or board-led model aligns with a common pattern among ministries centered heavily on one founding personality. When a central figure like Joni departs, the obvious heir, Jonathan Lamb, in this case, is estranged and sidelined, which makes a smooth transition difficult. The surviving spouse, Doug Weiss, never held an institutional role inside Daystar and has no direct claim to leadership from a governance perspective. leaving him without a formal place in the emerging power structure. Public statements from Daystar after Joni's death referenced a leadership team in place but never named individuals, fueling speculation. The Inside Group reportedly initiated private rituals, such as monthly communion services, as a symbolic exercise to unify and govern the network. While these reports come primarily from one investigative outlet with a critical stance, the overall picture is one of insiders stepping up to fill the void left by Joni, excluding Doug in the process. Financial transparency has become another pressure point amid these leadership changes. Daystar's parent nonprofit, Word of God Fellowship Incorporated, enjoys a church exemption from routine financial disclosure, which has prompted watchdog groups like the Trinity Foundation to demand more clarity on who is running the network and how resources are managed. Allegations of questionable charges, including a costly honeymoon expense tied to Doug and Joni, have surfaced but remain unconfirmed officially. The sidelining of Doug is also a strategic decision for the network. Given the swirling controversies around his divorce and remarriage timeline, reinstating him as a co-host or public figure carries risk, particularly as Daystar depends heavily on donor goodwill and audience trust. Reintroducing a name associated with recent tensions could hamper the network's efforts to maintain stability and avoid renewed backlash. Meanwhile, Rachel Lamb Brown appears to be the closest to a public figurehead within this new leadership, holding the Lamb family presence in a visible position. Still, real power likely rests with the broader executive group, reflecting a collective approach rather than a sole successor. This ensemble leadership style could help Daystar weather internal fractures, financial pressures, and programming gaps, pushing him away from the spotlight and opening questions about where his career and influence will go next. Doug's career and future prospects. Since stepping away from the Daystar spotlight, Doug Weiss has largely returned to his roots as a practicing psychologist. His heart-to-heart counseling center in Colorado Springs continues regular operations, with no signs that he has curtailed or changed his professional focus. His recent online activity, including posts about therapeutic methods like EMDR, cognitive health, and fasting, shows a therapist actively engaged in his field. This return to clinical work suggests Doug is placing his primary energy back into what he has done for more than 30 years before his time on television. Despite his media presence during his years at Daystar, Doug has not appeared on any television program, religious or mainstream, since his pre-recorded memorial tribute in May 2026. His well-known appearances on Oprah, Dr. Phil, and other shows date back years, and there is no indication that he plans to resume broadcasting in the near future. The long-running show Healing Time continues to list Doug as its host.
Doug Weiss became a co-host of Daystar's flagship broadcast, Ministry Now, alongside his wife. He also hosted his own show on the network called Healing Time with Dr. Doug Weiss.
But no evidence points to new episodes or active production linked to his recent life circumstances. The question of whether Doug will return to any form of media ministry remains unsettled. Daystar's leadership appears uninterested in reinstating him to a prominent on-air role, largely because his involvement was tied to Joni Lamb, rather than any formal position or ownership. For Doug to have a future in televised ministry, it would likely require him to independently develop programming or propose a new project unrelated to his prior co-hosting duties. This scenario seems the most practical if he wishes to remain in the public eye. Complicating matters further are ongoing controversies tied to Doug's personal history, particularly the timing of his divorce and remarriage to Joni. These issues remain sensitive within parts of the Christian community and Daystar's audience. From the network's perspective, minimizing reputational risk by quietly phasing Doug out makes strategic sense, especially when donor trust and viewer loyalty are at stake. The network appears to prefer a low-profile approach toward him moving forward. Family dynamics also play a significant role. With the Lamb family tensions unresolved, Doug's presence may be viewed as an additional source of strain rather than unity. The exclusion of Jonathan Lamb from visible roles and Doug's inability to bridge the family's rift limits his options for re-engagement at Daystar. Without familial support or a clearly defined institutional role, his pathway back into ministry leadership is precarious. Yet, stepping back from television does not mean Doug has abandoned his calling. Counseling provides a steady platform where he can continue impacting lives without the glare of media scrutiny. This quieter approach may offer him the space he needs to process personal loss and rebuild professionally on his own terms. It also shields him from the often harsh public judgment tied to the controversies that followed him. Looking ahead, the broader question is whether Doug will seek to re-enter the media scene in a new capacity or maintain his focus exclusively on clinical work. Given the complexities and risks involved, many expect him to continue quietly in psychology for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, Daystar is moving forward under new leadership, with Doug's chapter in the network's story likely closed. To recap, Doug Weiss's disappearance from Daystar follows a blend of grief, family conflict, and shifting leadership that left him with no clear role moving forward. Returning to his counseling practice seems the most grounded choice amid ongoing controversy and organizational change. If you found this breakdown insightful, please like and subscribe for more updates on this and other stories. Thanks for watching.